My girlfriend said, "I'm giving your tools to my dad. You're not handy anyway." $15,000 worth of professional carpentry tools for my 20-year career. I said over my dead body. She had them picked up while I was at a job site. When I reported it as theft, and her dad answered the door to police with MY tools in his garage. I, 42 male, am a carpenter. Not a weekend project. Watch a YouTube video, build a wobbly shelf carpenter. A professional, licensed, insured, 20 years in the trade. I started when I was 22 as an apprentice, worked my way through journeyman, and now I run my own small operation. Just me and one part-time helper for bigger jobs. Custom cabinets, built-ins, finish work, restoration projects. I make between $65,000 and $80,000 a year, depending on how many jobs I book. It's physical, it's demanding, and I love every minute of it. My tools are my livelihood. I need people to understand that before anything else in this story makes sense. A carpenter's tools aren't like a regular person's toolbox from Home Depot. My collection has been built over 2 decades, piece by piece. Some of it bought new, some inherited from my mentor when he retired, some picked up at estate sales from other tradesmen. We're talking about a Festool track saw system, $1,400, a SawStop job site table saw, $1,800, a full set of Lie-Nielsen hand planes, about $2,200 for the collection, a Festool domino joiner, $1,100, 3 cordless Makita drill/driver sets, a DeWalt planer, a Bosch router kit, clamps, so many clamps, chisels, marking gauges, Japanese pull saws, levels, squares, and about 40 other items I'm not going to list individually. Total replacement value, roughly $15,000. And that doesn't account for the fact that several pieces are discontinued and can't be replaced at any price. These tools live in my garage, organized, labeled. Each one has a place. I maintain them religiously, sharpening, oiling, calibrating. It's not OCD. It's professional practice. A dull chisel is a dangerous chisel. A miscalibrated saw ruins material. I treat my tools the way a surgeon treats their instruments because functionally, that's what they are. Now, my girlfriend. We'd been together about 2 years. She moved into my house about 8 months ago. I own the house, bought it 11 years ago, fixed it up myself, obviously. 3-bedroom, detached garage that I converted into my workshop. The workshop is the reason I bought the place. She worked in insurance, claims adjuster. Made decent money. We split household expenses roughly proportional to income. I covered about 60%, she covered 40%. Fair arrangement. No complaints. Her dad is retired. Used to work in auto body repair. He fancies himself a handyman, the type who watches home renovation shows and thinks that qualifies him to knock out load-bearing walls. He'd been doing projects around his own house since retiring and had been dropping hints for months that he needed better tools. His stuff was mostly Ryobi and Harbor Freight. Fine for homeowner stuff, but he'd been eyeing my professional gear every time he came over. Every visit, he'd wander into my garage and start handling things. Picking up my planes, testing the weight of my chisels, opening my Festool cases. I'd find fingerprints on blades I just cleaned. He'd say things like, I could really use something like this for my deck project. Or, must be nice having all this equipment just sitting here. Just sitting here. Like my tools were decorative. I was polite about it. I'd steer him away from the expensive stuff. I even lent him my cordless Makita Impact driver once for a weekend project. He returned it with a strip chuck and sawdust packed into the vents. Didn't mention the damage. I spent an hour cleaning and recalibrating it. After that, I stopped lending tools. I told my girlfriend, "Your dad is welcome here anytime, but the workshop is off limits unless I'm in there." She called me territorial and selfish. Then about 3 months ago, the comments started. We were having dinner, and she brought up her dad's upcoming kitchen renovation. He wanted to redo the cabinets himself. She said, casually, "I told him he could borrow your cabinet saw and the Festool stuff for a few weeks." I said no, absolutely not. Those are professional tools, and they don't leave this garage. She stared at me like I'd refused to donate a kidney to a dying child. It's just tools. He'll give them back. He returned my Impact driver damaged and didn't even tell me. The answer is no. That was one time. Once is enough. When we're talking about equipment, I need to earn a living. She dropped it, or I thought she did. 2 weeks later, she tried again. This time the angle was different. She said, "You know, you have way more tools than one person needs. My dad is retired and bored, and this would give him something to do. Why don't you just give him some of the ones you don't use every day?" I use all of them. You cannot possibly use every single tool in that garage. I rotate seasonally depending on a job. I used every piece in that garage at least once in the past year. They're not duplicates. They're not extras. They're my professional kit. She huffed and said, "You're so precious about your little workshop." Little workshop. 20 years of my career distilled into little workshop. I'll let it go because I'm dumb sometimes. Then about 6 weeks ago, she said the thing. We were in the kitchen. She'd been on the phone with her dad. She hung up and said, "I'm giving your tools to my dad. Some of them, at least. You're not even that handy. You just make cabinets. He's doing real renovation work." I put down my coffee. "What did you just say?" "My dad needs them. You're being ridiculous hoarding thousands of dollars worth of equipment when family needs help. Those tools are my income. They're how I pay for this house that you live in." Oh, here we go. My house, my tools, my garage. Everything is yours. What's even mine in this relationship? Your stuff is yours. My tools are mine. That's how personal property works. I'm giving them to him. You could buy new ones. I stood up from the table. I remember my hands were shaking, not from fear, from trying extremely hard not to raise my voice. I said, very clearly, "Over my dead body." She rolled her eyes and left the room. I thought that was the end of it. I thought the firmness of my response had closed the conversation. I went back to work the next day. Had a 3-week custom built-in job on the east side. Long days, early starts. I was wrong. Update 1. The theft 4 days later. I came home on a Thursday at about 5:30 p.m. Pulled into the driveway. Hit the garage door opener. The door went up. The garage was empty. Not completely empty. My workbench was there. The pegboards on the walls were there, but bare, just the hooks with nothing on them. The shadow outlines where tools had hung were visible on the painted drywall like a crime scene. My rolling tool chest, a 52-inch Husky unit that I'd had for 12 years, was gone. The Festool sustainer stack gone. The saw stop gone. The Lie-Nielsen planes in their custom felt line case that I'd built myself gone. Everything. I sat in my truck for about 3 minutes. Not dramatically, just processing. Because my brain was going through the same thing it does when I see a measurement that doesn't make sense. Rechecking, looking for the error. But there wasn't one. The garage was empty. I walked into the house. My girlfriend was on the couch watching something on her iPad. She looked up and smiled. "Hey, how was work? Where are my tools?" "Oh, my dad picked them up today. He brought his buddy with the trailer. They got everything out in about 2 hours. He was so happy." She said it like she was telling me she'd picked up dry cleaning. "You gave my tools to your father. I told you I was going to. And honestly, it was just easier to do it while you were at a job site, so you wouldn't make a scene." I want to describe what I felt in that moment, but I honestly can't. It was beyond anger. It was the specific feeling of someone taking the thing you built your entire adult life around and treating it like surplus junk at a yard sale. My hands went numb. My vision sort of narrowed. I had to sit down. Those tools are worth over $15,000. Several pieces are irreplaceable, and I have jobs scheduled for the next 2 months that I cannot complete without them. You're being so dramatic. Just rent tools or buy new ones. They're things. They're how I make money. I have a cabinet installed next Tuesday. How am I supposed to show up without a track saw? Borrow one. From who? I don't know. Other carpenter people. I pulled out my phone and called her father. He picked up on the second ring, cheerful as anything. "Hey, son, thanks for the tools. Your girl told me you wanted to clean out the garage, and she figured I could put them to good use. I've already got the table saw set up. Beautiful machine." He thought I donated them. She told him I was cleaning out the garage. I said, "Sir, I did not authorize this. Those are my professional tools. I need them back immediately." There was a pause. Then he said, "Well, she said you agreed to it. And we already moved everything in. My buddy and I spent 3 hours organizing. I'm not hauling all that back. I'm asking you to return my property. Son, this sounds like something you two need to work out between yourselves. I'm not getting in the middle of a couple spat." He hung up. I looked at my girlfriend. She was still on the couch. still watching her iPad, like we were discussing what to order for takeout. You told your father I wanted to give them away. I told him you were clearing out the garage. Same thing. It is not the same thing. You stole $15,000 worth of professional equipment. Don't be dramatic. It's not stealing if we're in a relationship. What's yours is mine. We're not married. This is my house. Those are my tools. And what you did is theft. She finally looked alarmed. You wouldn't. Watch me. I called the police non-emergency line at 6:14 p.m. that evening. I reported a theft of approximately $15,000 in professional carpentry tools from my home workshop. I provided serial numbers for the major power tools. I keep a spreadsheet, always have because insurance requires it. I provided the address where the stolen property was currently located, her father's house. I provided the name and description of the person who authorized the removal, my girlfriend. The dispatcher asked if this was a domestic dispute. I said no, it was a theft. She said they'd send officers. My girlfriend heard me on the phone and went white. You're calling the cops? On my dad. You stole my tools and gave them to your dad. He has them. The cops will go where the tools are. He's 63 years old. He has a heart condition. Then he probably shouldn't be lifting $1,800 table saws. She started crying. Not sad crying, angry, how dare you crying. She called her dad to warn him. I know because I could hear her in the bedroom. Dad, he called the police. Don't answer the door. Too late. 2 officers showed up at her father's house about 40 minutes later. I know the details because the responding officer called me afterward to take my statement. Here's what happened. They knocked. Her father answered. They asked about the tools. He said, and I quote from the report I later obtained, "My daughter's boyfriend gave them to us. They were a gift." The officers asked if he had any documentation of the gift, a text, an email, anything in writing. He did not. They asked him to show them the tools. He opened his garage. There they were. All of them. Stacked on tables. Some already moved to shelving he'd apparently bought at Lowe's that afternoon. My saw stop still had the registration sticker with my name on it. Several of the Festal cases had my initials engraved on them, something I'd done years ago for exactly this kind of scenario. The officers told him that I was claiming the property was taken without authorization and that this appeared to be a theft report, not a domestic misunderstanding. They told him he had 2 options: return the property voluntarily, or they document everything and forward the case to the Detective Division for potential felony theft charges. In our state, theft of property valued over $5,000 is a felony. Felony. That word tends to clarify things. Her father, to his credit, didn't argue with the officers. He just looked stunned. He said, "I thought they were a gift. My daughter told me he was giving them away." The officers noted that in the report. They also noted that he was cooperative. That matters. My girlfriend, however, was not cooperative. She'd driven to her father's house during all this and arrived while the officers were still there. She started yelling at the cops, at her father, at the general concept of accountability. She told the officers I was vindictive and controlling, and that this was retaliation for a relationship argument. One of the officers told her, calmly, that taking someone's property without their consent and transporting it to another location was, by definition, theft, regardless of the relationship between the parties. She called him condescending. I later read in the report that the officer described her demeanor as hostile and uncooperative. The tools were returned the next day. Her father hired the same buddy with the trailer and brought everything back. He carried each piece in himself. Carefully. I'll give him that. When he was done, he stood in my driveway and said, "I'm sorry. I genuinely thought you'd agreed to this." I believed him. I told him that. I said, "I know she lied to you. I don't hold this against you." He nodded. Then he said, "She's always been like this. Takes what she wants and figures people will just adjust." That sentence sat heavy. Update 2. The aftermath and the insurance play, 2 weeks later. So the tools came back. Most of them were fine. Her father had only had them for about 18 hours before the police showed up. But a few pieces had issues. One of my Lie-Nielsen block planes had a nick in the blade. My Festal domino had sawdust in the cartridge housing. He'd apparently used it already. And my saw stop had been set up on an uneven surface in his garage, which meant the alignment was off. I spent an entire Saturday recalibrating and cleaning everything. Cost me a full day of billable work, which at my rate is about $450. But the tools were back. I could work. That was the priority. Now, my girlfriend didn't leave after the police incident. I know what you're thinking. Why didn't I kick her out immediately? Here's the reality. In our state, even though she wasn't on the deed or the mortgage, she'd established residency after 8 months. I couldn't just change the locks. I had to give her formal written notice, 30 days, to vacate. I started that process the night the police returned the tools. She refused to accept the notice. Literally. I handed her the paper, and she said, "I'm not taking that. You don't have to take it. I'm also sending it via certified mail. This is your 30-day notice to vacate my property. You're evicting me? Over tools. I'm ending this relationship and asking you to leave my home because you stole from me and showed zero remorse." I didn't steal anything. I relocated things within the family. There is no within the family. We're not married. We're not even engaged. You took my property without permission and gave it away. The police agreed with me. The police are idiots. Cool. You can tell the detective that when they follow up on the case. That shut her up. Briefly. Over the next 2 weeks, the entitlement didn't just continue, it metastasized. She told everyone, her friends, her family, our mutual acquaintances, that I'd sicked the police on a 63-year-old man with a heart condition over some power tools. She framed it as elder abuse. She actually used the term elder abuse. Her mother called me and said, "How dare you send armed officers to my husband's home? He could have had a cardiac event." I said, "Then maybe your daughter shouldn't have committed a felony using his address as the drop point." She hung up. Her brother got involved next. He called me and tried the tough guy routine. "You need to drop the police report and apologize to my father. Your sister needs to apologize for stealing my livelihood. They're tools, man. You're ruining a family over tools. They're $15,000 worth of professional equipment that I need to earn a living. Would you be calm if someone emptied your office and gave your computer, your files, and your desk to their dad?" "That's different." "Ow." He couldn't answer that. He just said, "This isn't over," and hung up. It wasn't over, but not in the way he meant. Here's where the insurance angle comes in. After the theft, I called my homeowner's insurance to document the incident. Even though the tools were returned, I wanted it on record in case anything was missing or damaged that I hadn't yet discovered. My insurance agent asked me to file a formal claim for the damage to the 3 affected tools. The total damage was modest. The Lie-Nielsen blade replacement, $85. The Festool domino cleaning and recalibration by an authorized service center, $220. And a half day of lost work for $150. About $755 total. Not a massive claim, but the principle mattered. Here's what I didn't know. When you file a homeowner's insurance claim involving theft, the insurance company has the right to pursue subrogation, meaning they can go after the responsible party to recover the costs. My insurance company sent a letter to my girlfriend, as the person identified in the police report as the one who authorized the removal, informing her that they were seeking reimbursement of $755 plus administrative fees. She received that letter on a Tuesday. I know because she came home from work holding it like it was a rattlesnake. "Your insurance company is coming after me for $700. $755 plus fees, actually, for the damage your dad did to my tools during the 18 hours he had them. This is insane. I'm not paying this. You can take that up with their collections department. Not my call anymore." She then tried something that I genuinely did not see coming. She went to a lawyer, a consultation, not a retainer, and tried to argue that because we'd been cohabiting for 8 months, she had a claim to shared property, including the tools. The lawyer, and I know this because she told me about it during one of our arguments, seemingly not realizing how badly it reflected on her, told her that in our state, cohabitation does not create community property rights. The tools were purchased before the relationship, registered in my name, insured under my policy, and documented in my business records. She had no claim. She said the lawyer was unhelpful and probably on your side because you're both men. I didn't respond to that. Meanwhile, the police case was progressing. The detective assigned to the case called me for a follow-up interview. I provided everything: the serial number spreadsheet, the insurance documentation, the photos I'd taken of my workshop before and after, the text messages where my girlfriend discussed giving the tools away, and, critically, the text where she admitted she'd done it while I was at a job site specifically to avoid confrontation. That last detail was important because it demonstrated premeditation. The detective also interviewed her father, who cooperated fully and confirmed that his daughter had told him I was cleaning out the garage and wanted him to have the tools. His statement directly contradicted my girlfriend's claim that I'd somehow agreed to this. The detective called me back and said the case was being forwarded to the DA's office for review. He said he couldn't guarantee charges would be filed. DAs have discretion and sometimes decline cases that involve relationship disputes, but the evidence was straightforward and the value clearly exceeded the felony threshold. 2 weeks into the 30-day notice period, my girlfriend came home with her mother. They sat at my kitchen table in my house, and her mother delivered what I can only describe as a monologue. She said I was tearing apart a family over a misunderstanding. She said her husband was humiliated and hasn't slept since the police came. She said her daughter made a mistake, but her heart was in the right place. She said I should drop the charges. I didn't press charges. The state does, but she didn't understand that. And then she said the part that really got me. You know, my daughter could have done a lot better than a carpenter. She chose you. She chose to live in your little house and support your little business. And this is how you thank her. My little house that I own, my little business that generates $80,000 in a good year and has a client wait list. I said, your daughter stole from me. She admitted it. It's documented. I've asked her to leave, and she has 15 days remaining on her notice period. I think we're done here. Her mother stood up and said, you'll regret this. Men like you always end up alone. I said, I'd rather be alone with my tools than in a relationship without them. She didn't have a comeback for that. Update 3. The resolution, 5 weeks later. This is the final update. Go to lay it all out. My girlfriend moved out on day 28 of the 30-day notice. 2 days early. She took her clothes, her kitchen stuff, her bathroom products, and the TV in the bedroom that was actually hers. Fair. She also took the shower curtain, every roll of toilet paper, and the bath mat. Petty. I drove to Target and spent $34 replacing the essentials. Moved on. On her way out, she stood in the driveway and said, I hope you and your precious tools are very happy together. I said, we will be. The Lie-Nielsen planes send their regards. She didn't get the joke. She wouldn't. Now the legal stuff. The DA's office reviewed the case and made a decision I was prepared for, but still stung a little. They declined to file felony charges. The reasoning, as the detective explained it to me, was that the property had been returned within 24 hours. The father's cooperation demonstrated he believed the tools were given willingly, and the relationship context made a jury conviction uncertain. The detective was apologetic about it. He said, personally, I think she should be charged, but the DA has to think about what they can win. I get it. I don't like it, but I get it. The system isn't built for cases where your girlfriend steals your stuff and cries about it when she gets caught. If I'd been a stranger, she'd have been charged in a heartbeat. But because we shared a bed, suddenly it's complicated. That's reality. I'm not going to pretend it didn't feel like a gut punch, though. But, and this is the important part, the DA's office didn't completely let her off. They offered her a pre-trial diversion agreement. Basically, she wouldn't face felony charges, but she had to formally acknowledge in a signed document that she took the property without authorization. She had to pay restitution, the $755 in damages, plus a $200 administrative fee. And she had to complete a community service requirement of 32 hours. If she completed everything within 6 months, the case would be sealed. If she didn't, the felony charge could be reinstated. She signed it. She didn't have much choice. Her lawyer, she'd apparently retained one by this point, told her it was the best outcome she was going to get. The restitution check arrived about 3 weeks later, $955. I deposited it and used it to buy a replacement blade for the Lie-Nielsen and to pay for the Festal service appointment. The remaining amount went into my tool fund. Her father reached out to me once after she moved out. A text. It said, "I'm sorry for my part in this. I should have verified with you directly. I know better." I replied, "I appreciate that. No hard feelings toward you." And I meant it. Her dad was used. He's guilty of being gullible and maybe a little too eager to accept free professional grade tools without questioning the source. But he didn't know. She lied to him and used his trust to execute the theft. He's not the villain in this story. He's collateral damage of his own daughter's entitlement. Her brother never reached out again. Her mother never reached out again. I blocked both their numbers after the kitchen table ambush. No regrets on that front. The insurance subrogation resolved itself when the restitution payment came through. My insurance company closed the claim with no impact on my premium. My agent said it was one of the cleanest theft and recovery cases she'd processed. "Usually the tools end up on Craigslist," she said. "At least yours were just in a garage." Now, my life after. I spent the first weekend after she moved out deep cleaning my workshop. Every surface, every tool, every case. I reorganized the entire space. Rehung the pegboards. Added new foam inserts to my festival sustainer stack. Sharpened every chisel and plane blade. Set up my saw stop on a new leveling platform I built from Baltic birch plywood. Took about 9 hours. It was the best Saturday I'd had in 2 years. I also installed a deadbolt on the garage door. Separate from the house. Separate key. And I bought a basic security camera, a $60 Wise Cam, and mounted it inside the garage pointing at the door. Not because I'm paranoid. Because I learned the hard way that trust isn't a security system. Work picked up. I'd lost one client during the tool crisis. The cabinet install I'd had to postpone while the tools were missing. They went with another contractor. That hurt. About $4,200 in lost revenue. But my other client stuck with me, and I actually picked up 2 new jobs through referrals in the weeks after. The backlog is healthy. I'm booked out about 6 weeks right now. I still have a spreadsheet of every tool with its serial number, purchase date, and estimated value. I updated it after the incident, added photos of each piece, and stored copies in 3 places: my computer, a USB drive in my truck, and printed copies in a fireproof document bag in my closet. Overkill? Maybe. But I'll never be in a position again where someone can take my livelihood and claim it was a misunderstanding. Some people have asked if I miss her. Honest answer, some days. Not her specifically, but the version of her I thought existed. The woman from the first year who respected my work and seemed proud when I'd show her a finished cabinet. That person either changed or never existed. I don't know which is worse. My buddy on the crew, the part-timer who helped me on big jobs, came over last week to help me with a built-in bookcase project. He walked into the garage, looked at the reorganized space, the new camera, the deadbolt, and said, "Dude, the garage looks incredible." I said, "Yeah. Amazing what you can do when nobody's giving your stuff away." He laughed. I laughed. We built a bookcase. It was a good day. I don't have a grand takeaway here. I'm not going to pretend this experience taught me some beautiful life lesson about resilience or whatever. What it taught me is simpler and uglier. Some people see what you've built, and instead of admiring it, they calculate what they can take. And when you say no, they don't hear a boundary. They hear a challenge. Protect your tools. Protect your work. And if someone calls your 20-year career a little workshop, believe them the first time. They're telling you exactly how much they respect what you do.